All right, welcome back. So I've been tracking. Oh, this might be peacocking. So I believe that I've been tracking myself over the past week or two. It's close to the end of my fiscal year. I work in sales. There's deadlines. There's like 50 different things to do at one time, and you know, I mean, this is probably more than the past 2 weeks, but I have definitely been extremely unproductive, especially at work. Zoning out, watching a lot of, anime or manga related videos, losing track of time, talking to people, making videos like this to some extent, right? And it kind of frustrates me, in the sense of, especially now that this whole info energy dom conversation is being brought to my attention. Now that I'm learning that there is a more productive way of me doing things, right, which would be the energy dom way, and things like that. So watching myself, especially this week at work, was extremely frustrating, and I was like, okay, why do I seem to not get anything done despite me being double activated play, right? Especially, which, according to the definitions, should be the one that gets the most done. But I think I have accidentally come across an insight or reminded myself of an insight that maybe I had in the past, about the way that energy dom or energy based productivity works. And so the short story is, what I've been doing is I've been focusing purely on the task or the goal, me personally. And I'm like, okay, I have these 50 things to do. And I think my double activated play is like, okay, let's try and do as much as possible. And then over time, I become less productive because I am not recovering energy, right? And I think what I'm seeing, is that the energy dom based approach to productivity is, this exchange of expending energy and then recovering energy. And so I'm going to go through the checklist and just talk about it from an OP standpoint. I do have some resources actually that I remember reading as in college and stuff like that, that I'm going to share with you about this energy based thing. And I'm just going to share with you what I'm going to do moving forward. I'm an infodom, right? But I believe that there are some actionable things that I can do that are very simple, but I think that are going to make me more productive, which I'm excited about. So let's start with the checklist here. Okay, so we're going to start by defining some terms. We're going to start by defining energy versus info. So I'm going to speak from my perspective primarily. Okay, so I'm an infodom. I'm play, consume, blast, sleep. So I have consume, blast in the top three. These are information animals. So they're about gathering in new information and then sharing the information. So it's about exchange of information. Okay. And the definition is respects the information and enjoys sharing it, much like what I'm doing right now. I am such a meme. But the trade-off is that, we don't get much done because we're so busy trading information. Now, in contrast, okay, the energy dom approach, which is what I am now aspiring to be quite honest, is you can see it in people who have play and sleep in the top three, okay, and they are defined as respecting the time and energy things take. Okay, now for the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to stick to those definitions. There are some things about identity and stuff like that that I've put in other videos, but feel free to check those out later. For the purpose of my conversation, I believe that my approach to productivity has been very infodom based. And I am suspicious that many of the infodom friends that I have also have the same problem, whether they're play last or sleep last, because I've had many conversations, especially last year, about this. So let's talk about it this way. I'll start with describing how I approach productivity more specifically, because I know I gave a recap at the beginning. So what I tend to do, and this is my biggest problem, is I'm double activated play, so I will over stack my to-do list, basically, right? Throughout the day, someone's saying, hey, do this. My boss gives me like 5 different things to do. I have certain things that are expected of me to do on a daily basis regardless. So I work in sales. It would be I have to make a certain amount of phone calls every day, 30 to 50. I have to make a certain amount of phone calls during the week. I have to bring in a certain amount of appointments. I have to help customers, right? And then there's extracurricular stuff, right? At least for me, like I've been catching up on One Piece, for example. I love that show. Socializing with certain people, trying to, develop relationships and develop develop skill sets for me. And so as you can hear, probably, especially if you're energy dom, you're like, whoa, how do you, like, why do you have all this stuff? When do you have the time to get all this stuff done? And the frank answer is, what ends up happening is I'll stack my to-do list. I'll be excited towards the beginning of the day, and I'll usually get a good amount of momentum at the beginning of the day, actually, because I usually wake up with a good amount of energy, to be honest. So I'll get the ball rolling, but then as I keep adding to my to-do list and as the to-do list gets more and more stacked, I end up just trying to power through it, right? Where it's like, okay, I need to get all of this done by the end of the day, the end of the week. So I'm looking at I base my productivity on like deadlines, on self expectations, things like that. And over time, I basically run my mind. I think it is really my mind more so than my body, because my body has a lot of energy, but my mind gets fatigued. I've been noticing, over the past really, 2 years, is especially at work, my mind will get fatigued at around the afternoon. And even if I take breaks, my breaks still are about like info stuff. So I'm usually consuming or I'm blasting like I am now, which is still is expending a certain amount of energy, right? Because if you're reading something that takes a certain amount of mental stamina, if you're talking like I am right now, that's taking a certain amount of stamina out of me, right? And I think over the weeks and the months, I end up in situations like I am right now where I'm frustrated, where I'm like, okay, why don't I do much? Like, why am I getting so distracted? Why am I getting pulled in all these different directions? Now, the alternative, and this is where these books are going to kind of come in handy, I'm an info dom, but is the energy dom approach. I'll describe it and then I'll give those examples. I believe that, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, so the energy dom approach seems to be, they also have a certain amount of to-do list. So, I mean, productivity is still about getting things done ultimately, but it's almost like the energy doms are, back to the definition. I don't even have to make it up. Back to the definition. The energy doms respect the time and energy that to-do list takes, and they're taking that into account in their productivity. So a great example, Dave and Shan, I think it was in the Dolly Parton class. So the Dolly Parton class recently came out, for those of you guys watching this. And Dolly Parton is Sleep Last. And in the class, Dave and Shan were kind of saying, hey, Dolly Parton just goes, and she refuses to take naps. She refuses to take breaks. And they compared it to their approach, which is let's say they have like 10 things they have to do that day. Okay. Dave was very clear in saying, okay, I'm going to do one task and then I'm going to stop and then take a nap. That was kind of his thing in that class, where he's like, okay, I'm going to stop, take a nap. So he's not reading, he's not playing around, he's not talking. He's literally going and recovering the energy after expending, for that task. And then he goes back to whatever is next on his to-do list. And I think that small difference of, creating, let's say, recovery points throughout the day based on what you're doing is what's getting them the most done over time. Because, unlike me, they'll have the stamina necessary to go through. Like, I think Dave even talked about, like, there's one point in his RC career where he would work for 20 hours a day. I've never been able to do that shit. I have not been able to do that shit. And so Dave, I think that's how he's getting away with that. And so going to these examples here. So the first example is going to come from GTD. So I read, I was all into productivity when I was in college, but I was more about reading about productivity than being productive, right? And so in the GTD system, and especially in the book, if you read it, so David Allen's an info dom, but I think either he or his energy dom teammates came up with this way of making decisions, right? Which is very energy dom based, right? So so this is a system where you have to go through these 4 little checklists in order to make a certain decision. So the first way of making a decision is asking yourself, where are you? What context are you in, right? So even if you have a large to-do list like I do or like anyone does, they will narrow down their to-do list based on where they are. So that literally just narrows down the amount that they're worried about. So let's say they're so in this example, they're like, okay, I'm at home. So let me only worry about the stuff at home while I'm at home, right? And if I'm not at home, don't even bother me with those tasks. Now, getting more into the more energy dom side stuff, the second way that they recommend making decisions is asking yourself literally how much time do you have available, right? And this is something I do not ask myself, right? So let me read this. If you only have, so this second sentence, right? If you only have 10 minutes, but you need an hour to take action, that will eliminate some choices. So that is another way of preserving energy, right? Just asking yourself, okay, literally, how much time do I have? And let me not worry about things that will take longer than that. The next way, and this is probably the more energy, this is literal energy, right? Which is resources. I remember, and then if you read the original Getting Things Done book, he literally says energy available, actually. So let me read this example, right? If your brain is toast, like mine, good chance you won't want to do that high priority thing anyway, since you won't have the mental horsepower for it, right? And that's where I F up, right? Where it's like, I will try and do things even if I don't have the mental acuity for it, right? And then the last one was priorities. But notice, even the priorities has to come after asking yourself how much time you have and how much energy you have, right? And that is where I think energy DOMs in particular are organically superior, let's say, And so how am I going to use this moving forward personally? If you're an energy dom or an info dom, I mean, do whatever you want. But me personally, I'm excited about it because I ultimately want to get a lot done, especially with the play. I want to get a lot done, but my method and my info dom distractions, I think, are still draining energy from me, and that's why I'm so unproductive from week to week. So for me, right, I think there is a difference. So I think one thing I have been doing that's good is that I've been starting to take breaks throughout the day. I used to not do that at all, right? At least not intentionally, right? So I'm intentionally taking breaks, doing meditation, revisiting my affirmations, rereading certain sections of books that I think are good reminders and things like that. And I think that's a good foundation, right? I think that's good that I have that. But I think the next step, and I think this is where I've been making a mistake, is in, let's say, the breaks that I take throughout the day, I need to allocate time where I'm literally doing nothing, right? And I think that is the biggest difference between, I think, info DOMs and energy DOMs, where it's like, I want to say, especially sleep lasts are always doing something, right? Much like me, right? It's like, like I said, I'm reading, I'm watching something, I'm, taking, what do you want to call it? I'm reading like One Piece theories. Like my NE is a little bit crazy. So, but the info animals, I guess one thing I'm implying here is that even info animals drain energy, right? So it's not enough to take a break if you're just doing your info animals, because it's still going to drain a certain amount of energy out of your system, right? So it's not really a break. It's just, you're just reading or whatever. Excuse the background noise. I think for me, I need to allocate certain periods of my day to literally stop, right? And not do anything. Not even go over known information, which is part of the definition of sleep. I think I literally need to stop, either take a nap, or if I'm too, let's say, awake for a nap, like meditation would be another good example, where it's like I'm stilling the mind, I'm stilling the body, and I'm allowing the body time to physically recover, right? And then I think the last thing, at least for me as an infodom, that I'm really excited about would be, or that I would need to do rather, is much like with what Dave and Shan recommended in the Dolly Parton class. Her name is Dolly Parton, right? Yeah, Dolly Parton class. And then also, they even mentioned it in the Info Energy Dom Q&A, is take your tasks and break them down, break them down into smaller bits throughout the day, and only do things up until your energy is depleted. Right? And I think that's going to be a new approach that I'm going to do, because like I said, I usually just approach, it's almost like my info dom approach is I'm just looking at the tasks as if they have nothing to do with me. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like, oh, I need to get all these things done. And I'm forgetting the fact that I have a body. I'm forgetting the fact that I have energy. I'm just looking at the list. Whereas energy doms, they're looking at themselves and saying, hey, I can only do X amount, for this long, and then I need to stop. And so I need to both find what that limit is for me. I think for me, it's about an hour or two. And then break down all of my tasks into smaller tasks that can fit that hour block. And then once that hour block is done, cut off and then recover energy. Take breaks, headspace, meditations, whatever it has to be, where I'm just literally physically recovering. Like the image that's coming to my mind right now, I know I'm being very, excited. I don't know if you guys watch Dragon Ball Z, right? But there's an image in Dragon Ball Z. I think Dragon Ball Z is a very energy dom show. I think a lot of anime is energy dom. But so the main character Goku, he will be fighting, and then he has to physically recover in like a tank. I forgot what they call those tanks, right? But it's like there's an image of Goku like basically asleep, not moving, and he's in this like tank that's restoring his nutrients, restoring his energy and stuff like that. That is essentially the balance that I need to start for myself, right? Where it's like, okay, I have the attack down, right? But now I have to build that tank for myself. I know this is very metaphorical. Practically, what that means is I need to build spaces in my room. I need to build spaces in my schedule to physically like let my body stop moving, literally, right? And just let it like, probably, and then probably one other thing would be, one other way to increase the energy would be to physically recover with food and nutrients and things like that. So, I have like my micronutrients, I have my like vitamins over there, vitamin D, vitamin D, fish oil, things like that. Maybe take some, during that break time, I need to actually maybe even eat food, right? Or something so that I can get more physical energy in the system, right? So much like with Dragon Ball Z, with the tank, or even with the sensu bean, right? There needs to be that balance of, okay, expend energy, and now, okay, recover energy. Because even Goku needs to recover, right? That's my little analogy, right? So if I think for me, that's what's going to be the differentiator. And I think one thing I would warn infodoms about is don't forget, like, and maybe this is my SI, my mini SI or whatever, I don't care. But like, don't forget that just because you have a to-do list that you think you need to get done, don't forget the fact that you have a body and your body has limits. That's really, I think, that would be the warning I would give to infodoms. It's like, don't act as if the information is like separate from you, right? Like your to-do list is going to be something that your body needs to execute, right? And so you need to plan with the limitations of your body in mind, something like that, right? So that's about it. I know this is a little bit of a ramble. I'm excited about it because I think I was noticing. I think what made me excited about it was once I realized that even as I was taking breaks, I was like I felt drained when I was doing stuff. That was like the thing that clicked for me. I'm like, oh, I'm still expending energy during my break. And so now that I know that, I think, and now that I know what Dave and Shan mean when they say, hey, take a nap, take monkey naps or whatever, I think I have a much better plan of attack when it comes to being productive throughout the day. And hopefully, I mean, this might be a little bit of an insane desire of mine. Hopefully I will be able to work for 18 to 20 hours a day when it's needed, right? Because again, that's not sustainable for the body. But there are times, especially like, for me, it's like the last week of the fiscal year for me. Like, this is where I need to turn up. But unfortunately, I'm expending so much energy unconsciously that I'm not even taking full advantage of the little time that I have left, right? And so that energy recovery, that, like I said, that Goku like tank where he's sleeping and recovering, or that sensu bean that Goku would take, I need to literally make that for myself. And I would encourage infodoms, especially Sleep Last, but I think Play Last get into trouble with this as well. It's like, take time throughout the day where you are physically recovering, and then allocate an equal amount of time to attack the to-do list, right? And I guess that's where Play Last will get in trouble. Anyway, like I said, this was a ramble, but I was pretty excited. I felt like sharing this. There's a lot of background noise, so I apologize about that, but hope this made a lot of sense. I'm still new to the whole energy dom game. I mean, I like productivity, but I'm not the best at it, so that's why I get excited about stuff like this. So if you have any other recommendations, especially if you're an energy dom, feel free to put it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. If you have any, if any feedback, especially as an energy dom, maybe I'm not perfectly wording it, feel free to add that as well. And then, as I'm practicing this, I'm definitely going to let you know. So that's about it. I have enough energy now, so I'm going to go do some stuff, but then I'm going to take a nap later, and I will continue that and hopefully just give you some feedback, over the coming weeks and months. So have a great day. Hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video that I make. Take care.